So, hey everybody, and welcome to the first Recruiting Superhero Gym Show. We're here to help you, the recruiting community, be better at what you do. So, in this first show, we thought, well, how can we actually get recruiting superheroes some more skills? And so, as part of that, we invited James Nathan, recruitment trainer extraordinaire, to come and share some of his special moves that can hopefully help you improve your superhero skills. So, hi James, how you doing?
Great, thanks Alex. How are you today, mate?
Good. So just because I know all trainers love to blow their own trumpet, just give us 30-second overview on why you're what you've done in recruitment and why you're going to be able to help us today.
30-second overview. I realised today, Alex, it's this month it's 21 years I've been in the industry, and I feel really old as a result. But no, I've been around a long time, through everything good and everything bad. But I think the key for me is that I started as a young guy who really wanted to make a difference and managed to build kind of a nice career in a big corporate before doing my own thing. And since all of that, I've worked in so many different businesses now. I think it's interesting to learn from as many different styles of recruiters as you can, but also help them get better, help them get much better.
That's awesome. And tell me, is that your lead board behind you?
Can you see that? Can you?
I can see it. I do a bit of training myself. I'm just trying to see if I can get a little view on some leads there. So, but there's nothing better than a trainer that's living what he's teaching. So,
it's whenever I go into offices and there's no whiteboards full of stuff, I wonder what's going on. It kind of makes me feel like I'm active. Once a recruiter, always a recruiter, I think.
Exactly. If you don't have a pipeline, you're soon to be feeling the cold, I reckon. So
no, I like tactile things I can walk up to and and touch. So yeah, that's
there's jokes that can come from that. There's jokes.
My keyboard's on the other wall, which you can't see at the moment. So
that's the empty one, right?
You can imagine what it looks like. Yeah, that's the one that's completely full.
Good. So for the viewers that are watching for the first time, the way this show works is James and I have a little bit of banter, and then we're going to have two 15-minute segments, each one focusing on one specific move that can help you unlock some of your own superpowers that are sort of hiding within. Feel free, if you want to, as we go along, to enter some questions or feedback for James, and we can make sure we include those as well. And then at the end of it, obviously, you can forward the link to your friends, and hopefully they can come and get some of these superpowers as well. So the two superpowers we're covering today. The first one we've got is superhero listening skills. So that's definitely a favourite of mine, James. So I think that'll be a great one to see what moves you've got in that area. And the second one is sort of like the anti-superhero. It's how to make every call warm. It's sort of like if you were fighting Iceman or Frozone, this is your superpower to warm everything up to make sure you don't sort of burn people as you call them. So we're going to start with the first one, which is superhero listening skills. So James, take it away. Tell us how to have superhero listening skills.
You know, it's the thing. It stresses me a lot how very little people listen and how little information or how much they miss. And in the day-to-day world, because we all know that listening is the ultimate sales skill, and yet it's something that people don't focus on. And we live in a world where there's so much information coming at us. There's we've got our screen with its email and what have you. We've got mobiles and desk phones and people talking all around us, and there's so much information coming at us all the time that sometimes it's difficult just to take or to tune into the people we're speaking to. And it's a skill that we really, really need. Unless we're listening, we can't understand. If we can't understand, we can't sell. And it's as simple as that. Most people tell me that they can listen, and I say, great. So what have you heard in the information that you've been given? And they don't put two and two together. They don't read between the lines. And they don't do stuff like just, I don't know, you and I having conversation, you're a client, and I've listened to what you've said to me. I've asked the questions I want to ask. And then I look for feedback, just to make sure that I've understood. Can I just check that my understanding, can I just check that I'm really got this to heart, and making sure that I'm using questions properly, thinking about the information I want to achieve, seeing how or what should I ask next? Am I probing deeply enough? Am I getting to the real heart of the issue? Because as you and I both know, if I'm trying to service your business and I don't understand exactly what you need, I'll get it wrong. And it's something that just happens too often, far too often.
Okay, so there's a few things to go back with there. So you're telling me that to have superhero listening skills, that repeating back what you hear to the client is a good way of demonstrating that.
It's a very easy way of making sure you got it right. Once you put the phone down, once you leave the meeting, you don't have the opportunity to go back and say, "Oh, hang on a second, I just thought of something." And also that something that you might have missed could easily be the vital piece of information. So, just making sure you're not missing out. But there's when we're talking on the phone, we can quite easily, if our mind wanders or something, other information comes into our head, for that tenths of a second, it could be the point where that person's saying the most important thing. And
how do you stop that mind wandering? Because my brain works at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Client's talking, and I'm thinking about what I'm about to say, and I probably missed that last few words. So how do you stop yourself doing that?
Well, you've got to be absolutely focused and get into what people generally call active listening, which is listening specifically to that person and being only interested in what you're hearing. But what you must do is listen without trying to answer. So you're not trying to think of the next thing you're going to say. You're not trying to provide a solution to what they've just said. You're just listening to the next piece and listening to the next piece and trying to draw as much as you can. I mean, one of the tricks that I love is either to get away from your desk and go into another room with your phone, because we've all got mobiles these days, that's easy. Or if you are at your desk, turn your screen off. Turn your screen off, turn your mobile phone over, make sure that all that's coming to you is the sound of that person's voice.
Yeah, I guess it's like you're on the phone to the client and that little email Outlook pop-up comes up. It's like, ping, like it's sort of just drifting towards it.
As soon as your mind goes to reading that email, as soon as that happens, you're not in the room anymore.
Do you reckon a client can tell if you're not engaged over the phone anymore?
Of course they can. Of course they can. It's like someone who starts looking at their watch or their phone while you're talking to them. It's rude, isn't it? I'm sure they can. And the truth is, it's your loss if you don't take that time, if you don't spend those few moments just fully concentrating on that client, if you're not listening to everything they say, if you're not, or the candidate, whoever it is on the phone, even if it's a loved one, these skills work in our whole life. And they're really, really important.
My wife anymore, like she already.
Oh, sorry, I lost you for a second there.
I was just saying, I get in trouble for not listening to my wife all the time.
Have you seen that birthday card that says you never listen to what I say? And the answer is, love a beer, thank you.
That's true. It's when you're going to bed at night and you ask for the third time in an hour. So what are you doing tomorrow? That's like a little mini nuclear explosion. So one of the things you said, James, was like you've got to ask proper questions. So that's easy to say, but what does proper questions actually mean?
Well, it's appropriate questions. So and sensible questions, things that will show that person that you are actually paying attention to them or you have an interest in their business. Now you said, you asked if the other person can tell if you're not really listening. Of course they can, because if you're not asking questions that are specific or questions that are appropriate, then it doesn't really work. It's like typing on a keyboard. If I type while I'm talking to you, it makes you think I'm not listening. But appropriate questions around the things that person said. So when someone talks about, simple example, if someone talks about bringing a person into a team, then an appropriate question will be, okay, can you talk to me about the other people in the team? Who do they report to? Do they have reportees? And explain, give me an understanding of
building on. So you build a question on the answer to the previous question.
Yeah, you're involved with it and you're bringing in. So there's people love to feel understood, don't they? And people love to feel that you're interested in them. And to be interesting, you just need to be interested. But the more we can glean from that conversation, the more we can understand from that conversation, the better we can build a relationship, the more personal we can make it. The whole thing comes together better.
And I think especially in today's recruitment market where every client has access to candidates. You know, what we've got to do is bring candidates that are of a closer match, that demonstrate not just a skill set understanding, but can understand how that matches to the organization's goals and the individual nuances of that team. And that's often, you can only get those little things from picking up bits and bobs from the conversations that you have.
Absolutely. You know, it irks me when people don't take the time to go and meet their clients to discuss a spec. You know, you just wonder what they're that urgency stops them being great. And you know, it's my first boss told me, he said, when you're recruiting people, there's only three things important: personality, personality, personality. You know, once you've ticked off the can they do it, it's who works for that business, who fits with that team, who's the right person. You know, those are things we need to ask the questions around, not, you know, can they do a bank rec? Do they need, you know, what are the core skills for this? I mean, obviously there's that, but getting it right. That's neat. And people, I hear an argument at times that, you know, oh, that's all fine for permanent recruitment, but in the temp world, it doesn't matter. Of course it matters.
Yeah, well, we've all had situations where you've placed temps and they've done more damage than good they caused in a team. So I think and especially nowadays where temps are more likely to be there on a longer term basis, especially if you're working in more technical roles, or maybe a temp could be there 3-6 months. It's effectively they're an employee. A great tip that was taught to me once around showing that you've listened is that when you are listening to ask a client a question, when they ask the question, when you want to ask your next question, just sort of say, you just said this, so what about this? And so what you do is you use the bit of information that you've got from what they've just said to then frame the question for the next one. And therefore you're being explicit in saying, look, you said this, so I'm curious about that. Well, if you said this, what does it mean for this? And that allows you to sort of control the conversation. And a lot of the mistakes I see recruiters make is they find sales calls and business development calls very stressful because they feel like they've got to do all the talking. Because our brains are wired to sort of think, well, if I'm talking, I'm in control. Where actually, if you can get good questioning, you don't do any of the talking, and actually you've got all the time in the world to think up your next question.
The person speaking is out of control. The person asking the questions is controlling the conversation, is controlling the way that the conversation moves.
And that's not what our heads tell us.
But it is how it is. It's true. You know, I can sit here and rabbit on as much as I like to you, and you can walk away thinking, well, you know, that's all great, but what about me? You know, you want to serve me? What about me? The other little tip that's come into my mind when you were saying that was quite often it's appropriate to do that kind of probing of asking, so what did you mean by that? Or exactly that's, you know, that kind of thing. But also when we need to stop ourselves thinking of answers. We need to keep ourselves listening. And an easy way to do that is just to, you know, to scribble notes while we're talking. You know, you start the meeting by saying, do you mind if I scribble? Which they always say, of course not. Then just put a circle around anything you want to come back to. So at the end of the conversation, when you think, okay, well, can I just summarize my understanding for you? Actually, one of the things you mentioned before was that you said you didn't really like people who had, I don't know, polka dots tattooed on their face. Is there any particular reason that wouldn't fit the, you know, whatever it might? I don't know.
So we've had a question come in, James, from the recruiting animal. So hello, animal.
Hello.
And he basically said the person answering the questions is in control. Why would you dispute that?
Because very simple. The person answering the questions is speaking. The person asking the questions is steering the conversation. They are controlling the way the conversation or the meeting runs. So if I was to sit in front of you and say, Alex, today I'd like to talk about these three things, and you agree with, say, yeah, of course, that's fine, I'm in control. If I ask you the next question, I'm getting what I want from the conversation. I'm getting the answers that I'm looking for from the conversation. And also you're feeling understood. So we're getting it. There's a double whammy there for us. So does that answer it?
I think you've answered it. Knowing Animal, he'll come back on that one.
I'm pretty sure I know who he is as well.
But just as we're going to move on to the next topic in a second. So if you were just to give like 3 tips to be a superhero, unleash the listening superpower within, what would that be?
The first is be interested in the person you're talking to. Firstly, be interested. Make sure that you show that interest so that they fit, so that they listen. You can listen genuinely. Turn off any distraction you've got around you. So get rid of all the ticks and beeps and phones and screens and anything else that might take you away from that person. And remember that the more you listen, the better relationship you'll build, the better you'll be able to serve that person, and the more successful you'll be.
Cool, great. That's a great tip. So thanks for that. Thanks for that move. So, and we did just hear a background ping from either of us. So both of us have failed from the listening skills perspective.
My phone is turned upside down, and it shouldn't have done that. So Rob, thank you very much. That was very kind of you.
Okay, so let's go to the second superpower. So making every marketing call warm. Now, there's like a whole industry ready for this superpower, because like we are most of the time picking up the phone in the Arctic, when you pick the phone up and a blast of cold air comes out and freezes the side of your face off. So tell us about how you warm up every call, James, because that's what I'm finding.
Warming up calls. Well, look, picking up the phone is in some people's mind the bane of recruitment. In my mind, it's the pleasurable bit. Talking to people, getting in touch with people. And I think that we live in a society where people have lost the skill or are losing the skill to communicate by speaking. And there's a lot of tapping on keyboards. When I go into the client's offices and there's a lot of tapping and no sound, I don't see much on the fee boards. But when I hear people talking, I see a lot more money. And I think what's key is to get your mind around what you're doing. And the answer, what you're not doing is phoning people to sell them stuff. What we need to do is have a mindset which says, oh, excuse me, I'm phoning to introduce myself. I'm looking to build a relationship with that person. I'm trying to speak to the right person to understand what they do so that I can provide them with a solution should they need one. And if we business develop, if we pick up the phone and take that kind of style to what we do, then we end up with a much warmer approach, and we end up with a much more listening approach, which kind of filters back into the first super skill, I guess. But I like, people talk about cold calling, and I think it's a terrible word for it. It really is. It's not what it is at all.
So you mentioned the word marketing there. So how is making a phone call then similar to marketing rather than selling?
Well, every single conversation we have, every single interaction with everybody we have is a marketing conversation, isn't it?
We're always. What's the difference between a sales call and a marketing call? Because I guess most recruiters they go, "Hey James, you got any jobs? Got any jobs? Got any jobs? I've got a great candidate. Got any jobs?
Got any jobs, Mister? Is there's a company.
Dick Van Dyke there in Mary Poppins, didn't I?
Hello. Got any call? Got any jobs? Sorry, got to go. Next phone call. Got any jobs, mate? We phone people to get to understand who they are, to work out who the right person is, to get to build a relationship with the right person, so that we can then go and meet them. If we do it in that way, if our mindset is I'm phoning to introduce myself to the right person, then it's the way forward. If we are going to it's such networking. We go to networking events to meet the right people, to start a conversation as a platform to the relationship. That's how calling should work. And calling is hard now. People aren't available. People are really good at avoiding calls. People don't return. Did they ever return voicemails? But we have to make. We get hold of people less than we used to. People used to be at desks and they were easier to track down. That's not as easy, but when we get them, we've got to make sure we know what we're doing. We really have to get this honed. Things like making time in your diary so that you are undistracted to make calls to people, blocking that time off, at the right time of the day, understanding the client as much as you can understand them or find out about them before you call, so you're not phoning somebody who's wholly irrelevant.
I think you touched on a good point there, James, because we're moving into the world of planning, and I'm a believer that to make a call warmer, it's about your plan. It's not knowing who you're going to call or what you want from it. It's knowing how what you're calling about is of benefit or of interest to that person. And a really good test when you're sitting next with anyone at desk is when they're about to pick up the phone, they go, what is this person about to get from the call? You know, why are they, why will they be interested in hearing from you? And if it's like, well, they're just ringing to say, hi, I'm a new contact. But they I always say that they got friends at home, they got friends at work, they don't need any more friends.
Yeah. No, we've all got enough friends. Although, but and I think the other thing that comes into that, because I do that on the desk stuff as well, is what's your minimum objective from this call? What's your maximum objective for this call? What are you trying to achieve from it? And what does that person get? Because, the most important person in the world is the other person. And there has to be a tangible benefit for them. They have to feel like there's a point to having that conversation. It's not just about you saying, oh, and could you just tell me, is so-and-so still the finance director, and is so-and-so still the, all that stuff. We need it too. But, we can find that online a lot of the time, can't we?
Yeah, indeed. So what you're saying is planning is a good way to warm the call up. Second one is calling not to be looking for business.
Yep, it's an introductory call. You're ringing to introduce yourself. If you ask the right questions, if the call goes well, if you are able to glean information from that person, you can find out whether they're recruiting or not. You'll find out whether there's a role or not. If they warm to you and they feel an element of like and move to, well, not trust, but they feel they could trust you, or they feel like it's a sensible conversation, they will quite often say, or when you ask them, when did you recruit last, or how would you go about a process if you were to recruit, they will say to you, actually, do you know what, we're looking for X, Y, and Z at the moment, or we were thinking about this, perhaps we could have a conversation further. So there's opportunity to get that information and move with it.
There's a perception often that to make a call successful, you have to have either booked a client meeting or got some business. I mean, which puts pressure on that call being very outcome orientated. What would you say when people say things like that?
I absolutely disagree. The outcome from the call is you're looking to get the best outcome you can. The best outcome might just be knowing that is the right person. The outcome might be that you understand a little bit more about that business, and ultimately we want to find the people who recruit all the time and go and meet them and then be our very best mates, and every time they need someone they phone us. And that starts at the very beginning. So it might be that it takes us 2-3 contacts before we're in a position where they would be interested in meeting us. And if that's the case, then that information that we're gaining is helping us on that road. It's helping us on that journey.
I think what one of the phrases that a marketing phrases that taught me was you've got to think about front of mind awareness. That's what marketers are driven by. It's about when the client has a need, who do they think of? Do you come in to their mind? And that's really what we're playing for most of the time when we're making business development or marketing calls.
You want to be front of mind. The other tip I've got, which is a little bit controversial, but I like it, is don't start calling people who are really important first. We really, really have to practice our skills regardless of what they are. You wouldn't practice on the most important client. You don't look at work out who's recruiting 50 people at the moment and dive straight into them as your first cold call. Call a whole load of people that, for want of a better word, don't really matter right now. Practice on people so that you're getting real world work. And then when you get better, call them more importantly.
Yeah. One of my first managers said, always call 3 people first thing in the morning, because that's like your warm up. That's like your stretching.
It makes you happy.
Yeah, it makes you feel like I could be a player.
Alex spoke to me. I tell you what though, mate, when you call me every morning, I'm getting fed up with it.
So one thing you mentioned though is that you said, I walk into a sales office and I see people sort of tapping away, no one's on the phone. Now, if I was Gen Y, I would sort of say, look, I'd be thinking, look, here comes the dinosaur. Like, he thinks the world lives at the end of the phone. Like, he thinks social media doesn't matter. Is there a place
this dinosaur topped the league tables at an international recruitment business for years. I know how to do it. But I also know that you cannot build a relationship with words on a screen. Human beings don't interact that way, regardless of the way that Snapchat generation works.
So you're saying that social media has no role to play in the business development marketing process?
Social media has a brilliant place to play, and I have made loads of contacts through Twitter and everything else. It's a starting point to a relationship. You have to get offline as fast as you can to build a relationship with somebody human. You can build a relationship people used to fax CVs in big truckloads to their clients and hope that some would stick. And it didn't work then, and it doesn't work now. We have to get offline. We have to talk to people. The quote, when I was brand new, I was sent down to London to meet the world's supposedly greatest temps consultant. This is a guy built, God knows how much, huge amounts of money. And he said to me, listen, mate, it's really simple. You pick up the phone and money comes out of it. Okay? It works that way. It really does. Recruitment is a relationship-based sales business.
So what you're telling me is social media is great for breaking the ice and initiating awareness, but you want to progress that to a phone call as quick as possible.
You've got to. It's great to find information. It's a nice way to share detail. It's good to understand. It's a little bit, one of the other controversial things I like is getting, if I'm going to a networking event and I want to meet somebody, I'll go online and I'll snoop. I'll try and find out what they like, what they don't, what they're interested in, so I can talk around those things. That's really helpful stuff. But as a way of building a relationship, it's the starting point. It's a platform.
Right. Okay. I've got an echo on my screen, so I need to get it. I'm trying to. This echo's killing me. So,
okay.
So I've just demonstrated very poor listening skills, by the way. So.
Yes. Yeah. That's okay. I know. Yeah.
Right. So I guess the next evolution though is that, like, if you've evolved it from the phone to from social media to the phone, is there a role for face-to-face meetings?
Of course there is. In fact, I don't believe that you can build much of a business without really knowing people. And to really know people, you have to go and shake their hands, have a cup of coffee or a tea with them, get to know them. There is absolutely no excuse for not meeting clients or candidates. There isn't. There's times where it's difficult, but we have the opportunity of using Skype and stuff like this to do that. But we really need to go and physically meet people if we really want to.
The need to meet is less nowadays in the mind of candidates and clients. Is that there's more recruiters that are willing to work without meeting.
Yeah, there are.
More sort of skeptical as to the value they get from that meeting. But I think Kat puts it well in the comments here, where she says you've got to combine email, WhatsApp, text, phone, face to face, to sort of try and get that. So
there's lots of different things and there's lots of different ways. But I look at the guys who are making the best money, the most successful and profitable, and I try to drive down into what makes them more successful than others. And a lot of the time, it's a very personal approach to it. I mean, what animals comment, do I only work locally? Of course not. But when possible, I think it's important that we make it as personal as we can, and taking time out to meet people. I know if someone rings me and says, James, can you come and do some work for us? If I pitch on the phone to them, I've got an opportunity to win. If I go and meet them, I increase my opportunity to win by tenfold. And that's really important.
Yeah, and I guess it's where you can meet, that's great. But you've also got Skype, and I think there's a lot of value in Skype because you're still eyeballing them. I think one of my first managers said you never know the nature of the beast until you look the beast in the eyes.
Yeah. And there's so many great cliches that come out.
We could do cliche. Maybe we should do like a cliche show.
So I didn't say 2 eyes in one mouth when we talked about listening, did I?
That's right. So James, let's just bring this superpower home. So 3 tips to warm up every marketing call that you make. What would they be?
Three tips for marketing. Make sure you've got time planned in your diary that's just designed for that time. So you're ready for it. It's something you're going to do. Practice a lot. So make sure you know what you're going to ask, what kind of questions. You just give yourself the best opportunity to make that call well, and get yourself into the right frame of mind, which is, I'm ringing to introduce myself. I'm ringing to find out, understand. I'm ringing to make that person aware of us and me of them. I'm not there to sell, but if the opportunity to discuss an opportunity arises, that's a terrible bit of English, isn't it? If the opportunity arises through the call,
you're Australian, it's fine.
Be tenacious, ask. You don't get the opportunity twice.
Great. Excellent. Well, James, I really appreciate you making the time to come on. For those that have listened,
no, thanks very much.
James's website is, I've got it here. Oh, recruitingtowin.com. So James is a great guy. I've known him for many years, and I know he's got a really loyal client base. So I definitely recommend looking James up. We're gonna be here every fortnight on the show. So please feel free to sign up. Just like the show, and we'll make sure we let you know about the next show that comes on. Obviously, we're part of the White Recruitment Zone, and so we appreciate Stephen O'Donnell, the recent freelance that run the show. And from my perspective, you can find me at nurturit.io, a tool to make recruiters' life simple. So thank you very much, Animal. Thank you very much, Kat. Thank you very much, Natalie, and Stephen, and many of the other viewers, but the ones specifically that made a time to comment. So we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you soon, James. Take care.
Thanks so much, Alex. Thanks, everybody. That's been great.